three of the students in here are all, like I said, presenting at Dynamic Landscapes that day.
Cool.
And we have that piece of like, we presented for 25 minutes at the middle grades conference. So now we've got double that time. So we've got our own thing. But what's nice is two of them presented last year at Dynamic Landscapes where we had the hour or, the 50 minutes. And so they'll have insight too about what does that feel like? 'Cause that's a long time. That's like a real session.
And we still talk the whole thing.
Yeah. So it'd be cool to think about. I've got some ideas I could pull from a district-wide. We had for CVSD, we had a fill your bucket session this fall where it was like they asked teachers who have been kind of moving forward with certain elements of Act 77 to lead kind of in the district PD. And so mine was about student design curriculum. And so I've got stuff I could pull from because I think in that too, I had 40 minutes per group. And I was like, I don't want it to make it 40 minutes of just telling my story. I wanted it to be more, interactive.
Yeah. I think that having essentially micro presentations. Hey, Peter!
Peter!
What's up, fellas?
Yeah.
I like the outfit.
Oh, yeah, it was sports day today at SCS.
I guess. That's awesome.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember you.
Well, so y'all are aware, Susan coached me through how to start recording these things. So I'm recording this, and what you say will be held against you.
It's not good.
Good to know, yeah.
Yeah, watch out. And further than that, Peter, all I've said so far is we have the paragraph description that they've accepted. We know we have 50 minutes in the morning, and
Miss Peter.
however we go from there is kind of up to us. I don't have any students with me. Sam has students with him. The overarching goal is to convince other people to start student negotiated curriculum in their educational settings and give them the tools that they might need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Stop standing behind me. Yeah, stop.
So how do we do it? What do we do first?
Well, what comes to mind for me is always starting with telling a story. And if we indeed have students who have been a part of a student planning committee, I think that'd be a great launch point is even just the very beginning, we could do a little section on, we could talk about what was the origin of it? What was it like when we really got started? How's it kind of evolved over the past 2 years? Can be good, right?
Yeah. I mean, I personally find it compelling when, I'm trying to decide whether or not to do something to, have, pros and cons. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously not that many cons. I mean, there's some that you can think of, I feel like the pros kind of outweigh the cons, and we could make, a visual or something that we scan into, a Google Slides that could kind of show that. I don't know. I kind of always think of, what's the balance, and if the pros are, more, have more effect, then I always kind of find that, okay, why not try it?
Cool. That's an excellent idea. I am actively learning some of the cons as I go. And right now, the cons to me feel more like neurosis than anything else. I'm just being nervous for no real reason.
Well, it records us, not what we have on our screen. Yeah, I agree with that. And to echo that, Peter, in the discussions I had during that fall fill your bucket session I mentioned, one of the open cons that I think a lot of teachers have are being willing to take on that level of feedback and criticism, because I certainly embrace it. But at times it feels like criticism when you're taking what we teachers have trained to be so good with and near and dear to our heart of designing curriculum and giving it to students, and they just go, that is awful. And you have to really thicken up that skin and be ready to take on that feedback, because sometimes it's pretty unvarnished what the feedback we get.
Yeah. I've been told my ideas won't work repeatedly, and it's true, but it's still kind of that dissonance of oh, really? I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
I feel like when you start like a group like this, I mean, like I remember doing like my first sixth grade when I was in sixth grade. I'm in eighth grade now. Like my first meeting in an SPC, I remember like being told, okay, this is how we're going to structure our feedback, or like having a certain structure of like, okay, so it's not necessarily your ideas won't work. It's like, okay, so how can we take this and make it better so it's more engaging, or connect it to what we're going to be doing at the end to make it, or to, yeah, I can't find words to explain that right now, but like, I hope you can see where I'm going, like, with that.
Yeah, I guess I think we have like a good start. I wonder if we go tell the story, pros and cons, then maybe successes and failures, and then from there maybe go into like breakout sessions. That was one thing that I think Bill pushed at one point in time, is try to get to a smaller group setting where other interested educators can ask
During this week.
questions
With student facilitators?
Yeah.
Okay. I shared notes with both of you.
Cool.
It's called Dynamic Landscapes Presentation Rough Draft.
Cool.
Okay, I'm putting in a link to the Google Slides presentation that, again, I used this three times last year. I used it first when Emma, Rory, and some other students presented at the middle grades conference when they were first talking about student design curriculum. I used it again at Dynamic Landscapes last year when we kind of started telling this story. And I used it this fall. And the biggest thing that I think makes sense from this fall is it's got the whole background, but it's that kind of the breakout sessions, Peter, you made me think of it. I don't remember which slide it's on. I think it's on slide number 5. Kind of that prompt of like, what structures would make student design curriculum effective and convenient for your classroom? And then I put up that that choice framework that we could tinker with all this, we could throw it out, we could use it, but those pieces kind of drove, again, similar conversations, and I'm psyched to work with you guys and have students to just kind of take these resources and have it at a bigger, more of a state level than just our district.
I think what you were saying about like breakout groups might be like a cool idea, depending on how you like roll that out. Like, okay, so is it going to be the breakout groups that are then like, okay, so we haven't really talked that much about it, and initially just saying, okay, so what do you think are the pros and cons? Like, what's some like idea, like what could be a like kind of maybe having people in their small groups saying, okay, so what do we think initially the pros and cons are, and then based on that we could be like going over those lists like all together and saying, okay, if someone has a con that like maybe we have come up with, like if they have a con that maybe we have like come up to, like then figuring out how, like explaining how that's not necessarily a con, it just depends on how you look at it.
Muted microphone. I think I'm unmuted now. That's excellent. And I think that one thing to recognize is what initially seems to be like unreasonable challenges really often become the most productive aspects of learning. Specifically like negotiating and building relationships and being able to draw on a variety of resources rather than just one expert in the space and one mind in the space.
Well, yeah, and I agree because like I feel like and being like part of like our SPC and like other leadership groups at our school, like I've learned how to give feedback so it's not hurtful, it's not directed at the person like, okay, so you haven't come up with any good ideas. It's okay, so how can we make this idea better? And like it's teaching those skills of like how do you give feedback so it's not just hurting the person, it's like bringing the idea, it's not directed towards the person, and like just like leadership and like confidence and bravery and stuff like that in general, just like those skills that are useful when you're like going into the workforce or going into high school.
I just came up with just had a brainstorm, and it's part of this breakout session. Love it. This is something we could definitely build from. We could almost have like, I could see this as going into 2 strands when we have the breakouts. I could see one strand being thinking about it at a systems level, where your prompt is more like that whole question I had on my slideshow of like, how could you make student design curriculum work for you? And that's looking more at like structures and figuring out which students would you use, when could you do it. That could be something where we have breakout groups or a group doing that, and we, the teachers who have been doing this, could sit in with those groups. But then think of, if there's the second group, if there are educators in our session that want to do some of the hands-on stuff, I wonder if it would be possible to have them take curriculum that they've been tinkering with and actually have the students that are there sit in with them and almost simulate what an SPC session is like. And they basically kind of make their pitch to the students that are there, and they see what that process is like of getting constructive feedback from students. That could be pretty cool.
That was a really good brainstorm.
It was also, we made up pie day today, so I've eaten about 5 slices of pie. So I'm jacked up on sugar, feeling weird and creative and powerful.
Cool. Yeah, that seems really, like, potentially really powerful in terms of, I do think that there'll be people in the space that want sort of like logistics and how do you bring this into an institution that has had nothing like this before. And then there will be other ones that either want to troubleshoot it or want to see how it might work. I think one of the hanging points might be communicating to people who are potentially going to attend this that they might want to have some curriculum that they're working on.
Yeah.
To bring.
Yeah. And if I remember, I think we can edit, I think through the VitalLearn website, we can edit like our blurb. I think I did that last year because you submit so early and then all of a sudden 5 months later you actually are there. So I think if it's like last year, we could change that and put in some specific language about like, it's an interactive session. There's going to be some choice, recommended, bring like a schedule, bring some curriculum you're working with. Totally agree.
It's only 50 minutes, 50.
Yeah.
Oh, that's short. That's short.
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the things I think, whether it is served by the breakout sessions or not, but I think sometimes like a panel kind of, if the people will be, like once they have the context, I think a lot of questions, but panel discussion that would include students and teachers. Sometimes they just want to like ask, well, how's it work at this school? Or how's it work at this school? Or what did you encounter here and there? And I don't know if that's in lieu of or just sort of a fundamental basic structure that we would start out with after the stories, before the breakout sessions. There may not be time for all of the above, but it feels like this type of workshop is more about Q&A as opposed to us talking at people.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I wonder if even if a rough outline is like 15 minutes, we could pretty quickly give them some context with some real stories. We could then set aside, say, 20 to 25 minutes for the breakout sessions and still have 10 to 15 for a panel to wrap it up, right? I mean, that's rough, but like, I feel like that'd be doable.
The second was, you said 20 for breakout session?
Yeah, I mean, just spitballing an idea, like 20 to 25, right? Let them kind of choose from the menu, which makes most sense. Structures versus like actually simulating an SPC, and then, 10, 15 to wrap it up. I can see us doing that in 50.
Okay.
Right? Doable?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
We done it in 15.
Yeah.
MGC is
One idea that Susan threw out there is creating like digital stories about our different student planning committees and having that package so we'll know the amount of time, lead us off. That both seems like a good idea because it'll have something that we can use in a different setting or use over and over again to spread the gospel. But it also seems like it's going to take away the opportunity for like meaningful stories and improvisation and like embodying embodying the planning committee there before folks. What do y'all think?
What if the digital story would work for this? Like, because I'm lucky in that I'll have students there from school who are in the SPC, so they can tell the story live. What if the digital storytelling were for those students who can't attend, but we want to get their voice involved?
Yeah, like on either on Flipgrid or something simple.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll have kids. I'm not sure when, because they're going to do the TED Talk part of the. I think that might be a different day. But if I can bring a couple students, I just think it would be nice to have each student, because there's a lot of similarity between the idea of personalized learning and negotiated curriculum. There's some similarity between all the models that we're using, but there are also some interesting differences that are contextual. Mm-hmm. And I think that in and of itself is like, yeah, here's the spirit of personalized learning and negotiated curriculum, and here's how it works in 3 different settings with the same sort of goals and outcomes. Yeah. And I think giving people the room to say, okay, here's in the same way that we want multiple flexible pathways for meeting proficiency, is like, here's the end game. It's still the finish line, but here are 3 different paths that we're modeling that people are following to get there. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be obviously similarities, but we are not here to tell you this is exactly what you have to do. But here's the spirit of what we've employed in our respective classrooms and communities.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I think we might have a really excellent start, and it might be time for us to say goodbye and think about some of this stuff. And I have students that are interested, but I haven't looked at logistics at all about getting them there and then getting them home.
I'll be there.
Yeah, we could kind of take this, chew on it a little bit. I don't know which one of you guys started the doc, but thank you. We could kind of start putting ideas and structures in place there. And what's nice is we get to connect in a little over a week. You guys are going to be at the overnight, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Psyched to see you guys there. I'm there for the full time this time too. So I'll see you on Friday night. So we can kind of start the conversation there. And yeah, I mean, we've got Time's our friend. Like, we could always do more Google Hangouts moving forward.
Cool. Thanks, fellas.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, everybody. We'll see you. Go eat some more pie.
Yeah.
Woo! Oh, God.
See you later. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.